Yo, I'm gonna be real and I'll just absolutely say it. I feel like at this point, if you basically are someone that goes after lolicons in a way where they basically feel attacked or they are getting attacked in some shape or form or all of this sort of stuff, basically having this extreme hatred towards lollies and lolicons in anime, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. If that is the energy you carry in 2026, it's so boring. It is so like absolute dog water when it comes down to it, because I would like to imagine people are being extremely fake and extremely not themselves when it comes down to this sort of subject, right? Like, to keep it very much a stack, I think dead ass we have so many actual closeted lolicons that is out there in reality than what the internet likes to display, right? Because when it comes down to it, if you were to go on Twitter, if you go on TikTok or whatever form exists out there and basically promote yourself liking lollies in some shape and form in an extreme sort of way, then, you know, people are very much going to be, you know, not having that. They're going to basically be trying to whoop your ass from left to right, then throw you off the hell in a cell like it's damn near Triple H versus like I don't know, Mankind or something like that. That's basically what you're getting, and essentially it's just that's just how it always has been. But at the very same time, we have also seen throughout the 2020s so far, that this first half of 2020, where we have seen people be absolutely hypocritical, people just straight up, you know, trying to cash in on the hatred of lolicons while trying to boost themselves up over clout, which is some absolute nonsense. We have seen people say that they don't like lollies, but then they end up actually liking them or having characters that they are for. They are basically just saying that just because and out of spite. There is so many instances at this point now where people are online chronically and see that people actually are saying that they hate lollies or lolicons or whatever, but ultimately it's not really honestly even true. And if it is true, it is like an extreme hate that they have for some weird ass reason. Now, I also need to say this because I feel like I have to every time, and honestly, I should be paid $5 every time I have to say it to get people to understand. But I am not sitting here saying, oh, everybody should accept what lolicon is and lollies and all that sort of stuff when it comes down to it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you don't really care for the people that, you know, enjoys this sort of thing, that's perfectly fine. Like, hell, dude, there is things about, you know, fictional content that even I'm not gonna necessarily care too much for. Like, obviously things like NCR and Ugly Bastard, and somehow they be having like some of the finest hoes in all of Gentai for some damn reason. But ultimately, I'm not gonna sit here and just straight up hate everything about the topic of those things. Ugly Bastard I will always hate, but ultimately I'm not going to hate everything about certain things of certain elements of those topics or certain things that people enjoy of that, because ultimately it is fiction at the end of the day. I'm not going to classify everybody that basically like, you know, NCR in such shape and form as cheaters, even if your favorite one is a Tomedori, as much as I'm going to look at you sideways and really think you into some cuckold nature. Honestly, ultimately, I'm not going to sit here and just say, oh, you're on cheater status because that's the type of material you like. You're free to dislike whatever you really want to dislike, but ultimately, just straight up, the absolute just like vibe people have and absolute like harassment people go for when it comes down to people liking certain elements of fiction is so damn baffling. It doesn't really make a shit ton of sense, right? Like, if you're gonna roast somebody over the subject of it, that's fine, but then going to that extra step of actually trying to, you know, bully someone off or something like that is always a weird thing. It's always a weird thing when it comes down to it, because ultimately it is fictional content at the end of the day. It is something that people can very much, you know, enjoy, have a nice time with, and be done with it, right? Like, if you want to eat, again, Anya's booty cheeks straight up right in front of everybody at the finest 5-star restaurant that you can find, it's perfectly fine, because at the end of the day, who the hell cares? It's fictional content. But that's just where it stops. That's where it should stop. That's where it obviously it needs to only be at, and that's just how it is. And I find it funny how a lot of these people too will also be like, yeah, lolicons are actually just as bad as real, PDF files when it comes down to it. And it's just like, do you not see the news? How do you even compare that shit equally? You really can't when it comes down to it. And I obviously know that this is a Western problem when it comes down to it, because the East don't really have too much of a problem with that. They know it's a market. They know people like this sort of content, so they'll cash in on it if if they really want to, if they really feel like it. The West, they don't feel that way. And I think I finally understand the reason as to why the West doesn't really like this sort of thing, and why they stick to things like realism, and why they stick to things with every single video game has to be like realistic in some shape or form and all that sort of stuff. The West like rules. They like things having some type of law or rule basically being attached to it, basically being bounded down by it. Because with a rule in place of a object or a piece of medium or a thing, then easily they can sit here and understand what that thing is. When you take something like fiction and then they take the Eastern mentality of anything can happen, right? They can basically make a tree walk on two legs, produce strippers, and ends up being a orphanage at the same time. Like, in a realistic standpoint, how the hell does a tree walk? How does it produce strippers? What do you mean by that? How does it also house a orphanage when it comes down to it? Do the orphans become strippers at the end? Like, what? How does that work? And because they can't really put down a rule or a law when it comes down to fictional content in terms of what something is or how people go about certain things of fictional content, then that's when people get mad. When you don't understand something, you end up getting pissed off, or you're afraid to even touch it, because obviously it's something that is the unknown. It is something that you do not really understand when it comes down to it. And I feel like that's the reason why you get that sort of response when it comes to people that just straight up hate lolicons or hate lolly content in some shape and form. Like, Ilalu looked fine as hell. I'm pretty sure majority of people should or have the feeling of wanting to pound her cheeks in 5 times over. You can easily say that with any lolly in existence. It doesn't matter who it is, whatever lolly I have on screen, easily majority of the anime community should be perfectly alright with having their meat sucked off by this damn lolly, for example. And ultimately, you're gonna have people that just be like, nah, I don't want that. That's impossible, inconceivable, and all that sort of stuff, and think the worst thing of that person that might enjoy something like that from a cute character such as that. And ultimately, it's just like, it's not really the damn case. Lolicon in real life content is not the same. To keep it very much that, people will try to mix it in, and they're the worst type of people, but that's not how that works. That's just not how that is. Especially with like some of the recent news that we keep seeing over and over again. And I'm not gonna get too into it because there's a lot of like political stuff, and I don't want to just jump into that. But obviously, if you've seen some of the files of the Island Man, if you've seen the nonsense that started this morning when it comes down to, certain things getting dropped off and being, shown, and people starting to crack the code of when it comes down to it, like, high key, there's a lot of wild and shit that these really powerful people in the world just can straight up do and run the world the way it's being run, and essentially people will still be like, nah, I don't believe that, there's some misinformation in there. But the lolicons, yeah, you can get your ass up out here. You literally had the Island Man name their freaking Boeing airplane the Lolita Express. What the hell else is there to say? I'm being so dead ass. Like, you could dead ass see that and be like, what? So and then people will still sit here and be like, yeah, lolicons are still the terrible people at the end of the day. I am confused. I am baffled. I do not understand. I don't get how you got to this point of a mentality, but that is just how it is, and I am baffled for you, sir. I am extremely baffled, right? There is no universe, I don't believe, where people who like a fictional character is just on that same level as the Island Man. I do not understand. I don't get how people can very much be on that sort of time. And again, like I said in one video before, because I know I did this before, but ultimately, lolicons, even for a lot of them, that's not the only thing that they get off with. That's not the only thing that they're here for, right? There's plenty of characters that is hot as hell in anime and in fiction and just in general, but ultimately, that's not the one sole hardcore thing that they do enjoy. That there's like many different things that people can enjoy. Like, there could be one thing that they can enjoy here and another thing that they can really like over there. Two things can be true at the same time. It is what it is. But ultimately, what I'm trying to get at is that basically a lot of people have a lot of this hypocriticalness when it comes down to lolicons and how they like their certain material, and just people in general that judge these other people too with, you know, this sort of content easily are also the very same, you know, hypocritical people that might like Lolis low key, or like characters in that same sort of category when it comes down to it. There is a just straight up grand number of people that is very much like that, and the fact that people don't see that for themselves, don't really think about it for 5 seconds, is absolutely wild to me. Which is why I'm kind of just like, if you real deal hate lolicons or lollies in 2026, dude, you are a bum. You gotta be a bum. And I ain't say, again, if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine, right? But if you just go out on the most extreme tip possible to absolutely harass, bully, or just straight up try to do whatever you can to just make a lolicon's life a living hell just because you don't like the concept of it, even though the person in question might have never done anything crazy and out of pocket as many people would think to do so, like, it's just, you have to be the most absolute asshole wiener breath man I think I've ever possibly seen. And that's just genuinely what I deadass think when it comes down to it. You're the type of person that will deadass drink bath water for toilet water and just think it's the same thing. That is genuinely how I feel when it comes down to it, right? So overall, why I didn't really talk extensively hard this year about Lolly when it comes down to it, which is a bit of a surprise, but then granted, what else can I say about it? I said like a million things about it already. But when it comes down to it though, if you are basically, you know, somebody that's on that sort of time or just straight up absolute blinding hatred of it, you definitely need to just calm the hell down. You definitely need to at this damn point. Because ultimately, there is so many people that like certain characters, will make 5 million excuses for that, draw characters and age them up and act like, you know, I don't really care for that character, but you really do. Draw characters that are basically lolly as hell, but then you just try to make any excuse possible to, you know, enjoy that character still while not confirming that you are one. It's just like the damn character. Like the damn character. And the more and faster you will go ahead and just like the damn character for what it is, the better your life will honestly be when it comes down to enjoying what you just enjoyed. That's why I'm so happy that a lot of artists these days are now just saying, F it, I'm just going to draw whatever the hell I want to and just be absolutely done with it, which is something I am honestly just happy to see when it comes down to it. So overall, again, the only people that really hate these sort of things is people that are just straight up sad, people that just are way too young to be on social media, just to be keeping it very much a sag and have no parental guidance, and at the very same time, people that just very much is just here just to be causing trouble for no damn reason, right? That's just genuinely how it is. Now granted, the only thing I will give you to a slight extent is definitely there is some lolicons that do go overboard when it comes down to it. There is some lolicons that will very much base their whole existence about being a lolicon, and I do think that's a bit much. But when it comes down to it, not everybody is like that. Like, sure, people might like it to a crazy degree, or might like it to a more than average degree, but that's not the most wilding thing that could be, right? It's not necessarily something that I feel like it should absolutely be called out in some wild and ass way, right? So that's just genuinely how I feel when it comes down to it. So overall, let me know in the comments, who's your favorite lolly, and what would you do in this sort of position? Do you think I'm going too crazy by saying half the things I'm saying? Do you think I'm right? Let me know, share it around, and just do what you're gonna do. But that's really all I gotta say for this one, so hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also on my socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And again, if you'd like to help out with the Gofundme for the house so we don't get homeless and, you know, kicked out and all this sort of stuff, or whatever the hell they're trying to do, please donate through that too. That'll be in the comments as well. And until then, it's Fanboy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.